for humanity. Salam Media, a global voice for humanity.
Freedom Stationery supply Marlin and Marlin.
الله الله شكر يا الله والحمد لله كثيرا سبحان الله 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 شكر يا الله والحمد لله كثيرا سبحان الله. Oh, bless us with His love, to fulfill our aims in life. Alhamdulillah kathira, Subhanallah. Who's worthy of all praise? Who is the King of Kings? Alhamdulillah kathira. رب العالمين.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media, your humanitarian broadcaster.
And welcome back. You are listening to News and Views on Salam Media, coming to you via salammedia.com/listen-live, as well as via the airwaves of Radio Al Ansar 90.4 FM in Durban, 105.6 FM in Pietermaritzburg. Now, going ahead with the show, a court has barred Shell from going ahead with a seismic blasting on the Wild Coast as part of its exploration for oil and gas. That is for now. The High Court in Makhanda on Tuesday ruled that Shell must halt its activities until a second part of an interdict is heard. So to find out more about this, we're actually going to be speaking to one of the environmentalists. And of course, this story had actually been taken to court as mentioned earlier on. So we're going to be speaking now. Let me welcome our guest, Kirsten Youens, Executive Director at All Rise Attorneys for Climate and Environmental Justice. Good morning, ma'am, and welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Right, Kirsten, I mean, this story has caught the attention of many people who are concerned about the environment, basically environmentalists, and people even beyond that, people who do not even work in the field. Basically, I think a lot of people are concerned about this, and people have been following this story ever since a petition was launched against Shell's planned activity as it was at the time. And then, of course, we know now that Shell did go ahead with the seismic survey. They did start their activities on the 1st of December, but now the court seems to have barred them from continuing, at least for now. Just your thoughts in reaction to this?
Yes, well, obviously we're thrilled. The first application was brought under different grounds by a different firm of attorneys and a different set of applicants. And this one was brought mainly on behalf of the community that live along the Wild Coast, along the coast that the seismic survey is taking place. And we are one of the applicants, as All Rise. The grounds were different, which is why the outcome was different, I think. And what has happened is it means that that Shell is not interdicted, in other words, barred, as you said, from continuing with their seismic survey until the applicants have the opportunity to take the decision to grant the license on review.
Mhm. Now, I understand that there was a lot of anger over this because I think environmentalists at the time had raised concerns about the impact that this would have on marine life. But as you say, this application was brought by the communities. So, what exactly are the communities upset about?
Well, the main issue was that they weren't consulted at all in the application process and the impact assessment process, which was done through the MPRDA, which is the Minimal Petroleum and Development Resources Act, which requires a public participation process, which Shell said they had done, and they had done to a certain extent, but they hadn't involved the community that lives adjacent to the sea and uses the sea for their cultural practices, their religious practices, and their livelihood, their sustainable living. They live off the sea, and they hadn't been consulted in the entire process and that was a major issue, which the court agreed on. And they said simply because Shell had already spent money and started the seismic survey doesn't mean that they can just overlook the fact that they didn't consult with the people that are going to be most affected by the impact that the seismic survey has on the ocean and the creatures that live in the sea.
Mm. And then of course this ruling has just put a stop to the seismic survey for now. Where do you see this moving forward?
Well, obviously we have to see that ship must come back to harbour. That's where it has to be. And then what happens is a second application will be brought, and that will be a review of the mining right that was the exploration right. Sorry, not the mining right, the exploration right that was granted to Sasol to explore, and that will be another court process, also in the Makhanda High Court, to review and set aside the mining right based on the same causes of action that the same merits that were the case was brought in the first place. And then that would have to be heard, and that will take months. So who knows where Shell will be then? I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, it's already nearly an entire month that has gone now since the seismic survey began. So considering all these legal processes that must now follow, some might say that it's already. Is it not too late already, considering the time that has already passed, and then in the legal processes that must follow, the time that would be spent on those processes as well?
Look, a month of seismic survey has already caused harm, unfortunately. We've had photographs and input from people that are there, but it's better than 5 months. That's where they were going. They were going to spend 5 months of out at sea blasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I think although it's already begun, it certainly has stopped another 4 months of harm. And the fact that the law must be complied with. So if you're required to do a public participation process, then you must do a proper public participation process. The fact that you've started is irrelevant. The fact that the exploration right was granted it should not have been granted when there was a lack of public participation, and the people that were most affected and are most affected were the ones that weren't consulted with. So that's the most important thing. The rule of law must be applied. The Constitution must be considered and applied, and it has been in this instance, which is fantastic.
All right, Kirsten Youens, thank you so much for that.
My pleasure. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. You as well. That was Kirsten Youens, an attorney, speaking to us about the latest developments in the Shell case. Of course, the High Court in Makhanda yesterday ruled that Shell must halt its activities until a second part of an interdict is heard. This is, of course, after Wild Coast Communities lodged an application for an urgent interdict against Shell's exploration in late November. The communities are represented by the Legal Resource Center and Richard Spoor attorneys. So we're going to be, hopefully we can actually reach out to the attorneys as well at a later stage. And I mean, even two civil society organizations that work in the area had done this as well. I mean, this story has it seems to have caught a lot of attention, especially because of the nature of this survey. But as we are seeing now, and as we've heard from our guest a few moments ago, this particular court case was mainly because of the exclusion of the community in the consultation processes, and I think. Well, Shell did, as the guest mentioned, Shell did conduct consultations, but as it turns out, the communities seem to have been excluded from those consultations, and I think that is really important because, as she mentioned as well, that the communities that live in the area adjacent to the coast that is being surveyed. Well, of course, we're speaking about the area from was it Morgan's Bay and right up until Port St. John's in the Eastern Cape. These people living in these communities actually rely heavily on the marine, the ocean nearby for their cultural practices, religious practices, even for, I mean, for their diet as well. So I think it really, they ought to have been consulted. And in this case, as our guest mentioned, the constitution seems to be, what was done by the court seems to be upholding the constitution. And that is, as she says, a positive in this regard. But that is where we're going to leave this for now. That was Kirsten Youens, an attorney and executive director at All Rise Attorneys for Climate and Environmental Justice, speaking to us about this. Let's take an ad break, and when we get back, we continue with the show. Please do stay tuned.